Hey friends, before we get to the main event, just a quick word about the cryptocurrencies space. The reason, as you all know, Wall Street is implementing Bitcoin futures, which are going into effect this Sunday evening at 5 p.m., is because the establishment wants to rein in the price of Bitcoin. The entire crypto space, as of around 2 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, is valued at $415 billion, with Bitcoin comprising approximately $260 billion of that amount. The cryptos are a gigantic threat to the existing criminal banking system because, like gold, when you exchange your fiat dollars for cryptos and then take delivery of the cryptos into your own private wallet, that fiat is no longer available to the banking system and can't be utilized by the criminal banks through fractional reserve banking to be leveraged 10 to 1 or with derivatives 100 to 1. So, assuming that the majority of the total crypto market cap of $400 billion resides outside of the hands of HSBC, Deutsche Bank, JP Morgan, and other criminal colluders, we're really talking about 10 times that amount, or $4 trillion that the mega banks no longer have access to. Think about that. Physical gold and silver in your possession is outside of their system, and so are cryptos in your own personal wallet. Which brings me to this interview about HIVE Blockchain. And at the end, I will give you a glimpse of the cryptos that I hold, many of which I purchased because of Clif High's WebBot project information. And now my interview with Frank Holmes of HIVE Blockchain. We've spoken to Frank once before, and I have since taken a position in HIVE Blockchain. I have just over 1,000 shares purchased in an IRA. HIVE Blockchain is a play through Wall Street, through IRAs, through the stock market on cryptocurrencies. I'm thrilled to have Frank back. Frank, how are you, sir?
It's great to be with you again.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you back. And guys, I should just explain, Frank is a lifelong gold guy, a gold bug. He knows all about the ins and outs of the gold market. He's also the CEO and the CIO of U.S. Global Investors, and he has not turned his back on precious metals. He has, however, woken up to the opportunity in cryptocurrencies. Frank, I want to just say one thing for the record here. I've also told my listeners that I hold GBTC, which is the only way that I'm aware of to leverage the price of Bitcoin, to invest in Bitcoin through a traditional brokerage account. I hold some GBTC in my IRAs as well. And it seems to me that HIVE Blockchain is the only other way to play the cryptos right now on Wall Street. Do you think I have that correct?
Well, I think the thing is that HIVE Blockchain is the only company that's mining cryptocurrencies that gives you exposure to the infrastructure necessary, and we're hoarding the coins. And so when you look at the idea where the regulators have not let an ETF come out, it's because of AML, anti-money laundering laws, and KY. Well, we don't have that problem because we mine virgin coins. And in fact, we're getting offered premiums for our coins because they have never been tainted. And so I think that's what makes them so special, unique, and that HIVE ended up rocking up. It's gone through a correction with early investors taking some profits, but it's just temporary because it is the only public company that allows you to play this space. And we have high margins. We have a run rate now about $1 million a month. We'll go to $2 million, and then we expect by April, May that we'll be doing $50 million a year run rate, and we should have free cash flow of $25 million. So it's very exciting, and we mine these coins in Iceland, and we're going to expand into Sweden because there's inexpensive electricity. The real key part here is to have cheap electricity and the technology of Genesis Mining, who is the largest private mining company in the world, where you can go and buy up their service and you can start mining at home. Like you can take your car and become an Uber driver. You can be mining directly your own coins through Genesis Mining.
Well, I did hear from a interview you did on Small Cap Power on YouTube that you guys are hoarding the coins, and I think that's very important because I think holding these coins long term is the way to go. I hold some other altcoins. I hold some Ethereum, some Litecoin, and my plan is to hold these coins long term. But we're seeing nation states battle back against that now. China's coming out saying soon we'll see Bitcoin floating dead down the river. The United States IRS has tried to leverage Coinbase to give them the names of all their Coinbase account holders because they want their cut from taxes. Do you suspect we'll see more and more of that as Bitcoin rises in value? We're going to see nation states try to fight the turning tide?
No, I think that that's what the general media wants, is the narrative. I think that something else is bigger that's happening, and here's a real shocker and an incredible data point: is that Coinbase in 2 years has 13 million customers. That's more than Schwab in 30 years. It has 10 million customers. Now, the AML rules, which talked about earlier, makes it so difficult to open a brokerage account. 2 days, maybe 3 days. If it's a corporate account, it could be a month. It takes you 5 minutes to open an account at Coinbase. Now, the average purchase is a lot less than saying at Schwab, but the fact that you have there's 13 million subscribers, and then Genesis Mining, who owns 30% of HIVE Blockchain, are the largest private company in the world mining. They have a cloud service, and they do about 25% of all the mining for Ethereum and 10% of all Bitcoins. And anyone can turn around and outsource to them using their latest technology and their servers that are in Iceland and Sweden and other places in the world for that service. And they're growing at 50,000 accounts a day. So Coinbase is at 50,000 a day. They're growing at so there's something happening that's very big and it's global. And the same thing's happen in Canada. They have a service called Jax, which is another form of a wallet, and they're growing at record numbers of new accounts opening a day. And then there's Einstein, an exchange that's already profitable in only a few months. So I think that it's bigger than what the general media is saying, and that's the whole thing with crowdfunding, that so much money is being moved around outside of the normal world of where the regulatory body is, but so was the media. It's not there. And it was estimated that $50 billion went through crowdfunding, and ICOs are just a form of that, and it's estimated that $3 billion went into these new ICOs, and they're really probably hurting more the junior stock market financings that investors, especially millennials, they're not going to wait 3 days to open a brokerage account. They're going to do it in 5 minutes, and they'd rather go trade ICOs. So they're seeing something else that's shifting, but if Coinbase gives up their tax ID and things like that and their social, that's only going to inspire more people to come and invest, because this is a growth sector and this is breaking through new technology, and it's like being in the tech boom in the 90s, in the early, like 96. And what you got to remember is that the tech crash took place because of margin accounts. It's always excessive debt, and the crash of 2008, the housing bubble was all about leverage again. This is predominantly a cash economy, a cash trade. So I think I'm very bullish on it.
Well, I'm bullish on it too, and I want you to just step into the Wayback Machine with me here, and let's go back to December 5th here, just a few days ago, when a couple of things happened, 3-4 different things happened, which I don't think are a coincidence. Number one, GBTC, which I mentioned at the beginning of this interview, intraday around noon was down 24% in one day, Frank, while Bitcoin itself was up 5%. Meanwhile, there was a correction also in HIVE Blockchain, and gold broke below key support, dropping to 4-month lows as the criminals threw $1.5 billion of notional gold at the market. I don't think that's a coincidence. So I want your thoughts on that, number one. And number two, what does it portend for Bitcoin futures? What it says to me is Wall Street and the powers that be are very threatened by this technology, and they would love to crush it if they could.
Well, I look at Bitcoin as being what email was to the Internet. A lot of people didn't know about the Internet. They were reluctant to go to it. It was known as the dark Internet. It was only where porn was, and it was slow porn. It was just all this negativity like you hear about Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's woken up the world to blockchain, and there's over 2,700 patents filed by these big banks to use blockchain technology. And you're seeing it in the healthcare, you're seeing it in the energy data centers using this blockchain. So I remain pretty bullish. But what I think is happening, you're saying the notional value of gold, I think that there is a game being played with the price of gold every time it starts to get momentum to take the wind out of its sails. And governments, the G20, have synchronized, they're a cartel. And it's all about synchronized global taxation and regulation, not about trade and growth. And so that I expect that. But I think what happened with GB is the idea that it was trading at such a big premium.
Yeah, 70%, I believe.
Market.
Yeah, 70% premium to the net asset value. But again, it just, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm passionate about it because I own some GBTC.
Okay.
But what it does is it suggests that, see, here they can't do this with Bitcoin, but they can do it because they can short the hell out of a stock. Naked short it, do whatever they want. They can gang up on it with their Wall Street buddies. And, it's a very limited market. It's not a global market. It's Wall Street centric. And it just, I think, it just proves what scumbags these people are, because they can pile on, and while Bitcoin is up 5%, they can take it down 24% intraday. I mean, how is that not collusion? It's just my opinion, but I think it's absolute collusion between the Wall Street criminals and their buddies.
Well, I can't really say that. I understand your frustration, but I think that guys are playing a game of an arbitrage. So shorting that to go long the new CME futures on the Bitcoin. So I think that they're anticipating that premium is going to be eroded. That's what the market's saying to me. But when it comes to gold, there's something else that takes place in the futures market of how they use that notional value and play that game, and against the physical. I don't think they'll be able to do that with Bitcoin using the futures market to move it around the way they move gold around. The other difference is that there's only estimated 10 million Bitcoins out there in the marketplace right now. Many have been lost. Many have not been mined. So that's a very limited float, 10 million. And it's different than gold.
That's right.
And so I think that it will have its own behavior.
Yeah, well, no, I agree with you. Here's the thing. I'm very dubious of anything coming out of the CME group and Wall Street. And this whole Bitcoin futures deal it's the absolute antithesis of what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is supposed to be decentralized. Either you own it or you don't. So for these guys to come out and say, well, we want to create a bigger market for Bitcoin, they can only do it through derivatives. So I'm very, very dubious. And when I've heard interviews with CME CEO Terry Duffy talking about the new Bitcoin futures, he's foaming at the mouth because it gives the ability for traders to short Bitcoin. His words, not mine. So what are they really doing this Bitcoin futures for? Because they want to kill the price, or because they want to inflate the price? I mean, I just don't buy that it's about price discovery. I think that's the last thing they care about.
I think so too.
All right, rant over. Let's talk about Venezuela, which just announced it may use a cryptocurrency to reset its hyperinflationary money system. What do you make of that? Did you happen to see that news the other day?
I did, and I just think that they're so dysfunctional. They're just desperate for money, and they're basically drug lords now.
Right.
And people don't realize it. Well, a lot of that drug money comes from Colombia, goes into Venezuela, and then it's shipped up throughout Europe and over here. And the dangerous part is if the FARC party that everyone at peace in Colombia for, they are lauding and applauding for Venezuelan leadership. So these are our socialists. Really, they're dictators. They're not very benevolent. So I think they're desperate for cash, and it's just another scramble for them to play that game.
All right. Now, let me ask you this as it pertains to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, all of the other cryptos. You guys can go to cryptomarketcap.com to see the top 100 cryptos in terms of market cap. Frank, what do you think will be the role of gold in cryptos, say, 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Well, I think that the idea what the CME was to do is where they're going to do a gold back with the Royal Exchange in the UK and have where you can get a gram of gold backed by gold and get a cryptocurrency. I think that is huge, like the GLD was because it gives you fractions, that you can have small fractions of gold and you can trade them and send them around cheaper than a tenth of an ounce. If you want to go buy fractions of an ounce of gold, it's very expensive, and the premiums are quite expensive, and this would be a way to drive down that premium spread, and therefore more people would be able to buy them. I think things like that could be bullish more than the futures market that is talked about coming out with the CME.
Okay. Well, I follow the work of Clif High, the WebBot Projects guy, and, I've interviewed him several times. He's a good guy. And he said that this CME group, he said basically his words to me were in an email because I was concerned about it. He said, they're going to screw the pooch on this one. It's not going to work. They're not going to be able to devastate the price of Bitcoin because Bitcoin is a globally traded asset and it trades 24 hours a day. Nobody's going to be looking to the CME to set price. So he says they're going to screw the pooch on it, and it's going to expose the whole CME operation for what it is, including their gold and silver rigging that's been going on in the futures market for so long. So I hope he's right. Do you think he might be?
I don't know. It's an interesting observation for that. I just know that when the GLD first came out, there was such negativity towards it, but it did inspire many non-gold investors to buy gold because it was easier to go just buy a certificate than go to a small coin dealer to go buy coins. And so I think that if they do come up with a currency that's backed by gold, not a futures derivative, now that is much more constructive.
Alrighty, well, let me ask you this. Let's circle back to HIVE Blockchain. Guys, the ticker is PRELF, and as I stated, I am a shareholder in 2 different IRA accounts of the stock. Frank Holmes is the chairman of HIVE Blockchain. He's also the CEO and CIO of U.S. Global Investors. Frank, just so people understand what HIVE Blockchain is all about, you mentioned that you're, I think, primarily going to be mining Ethereum. You're going to be mining some Bitcoin, and you're going to be hoarding the coins. Are you going to be, are you guys going to be, go ahead.
Classic.
Pardon?
Ethereum Classic. We've been started mining Ethereum Classic, and we're already 10% of Ethereum Classic's production, and it's more profitable, in fact, right now.
Okay.
So, and the other part is that we're opening an office in Zug. We're very tax efficient, and we are trading. So we never buy the coins. So that any time it has a huge surge, we will sell 1, 2, or 3%, and then as soon as it corrects, we just mine more and replenish ourselves. But we want to wait till we get at least 20,000 coins on, and then we could turn around and use our quant model. So we're doing things that are unique. The other part is that as a CEO and large shareholder of Grow, which is U.S. Global Investors, NASDAQ, we own a big slug of HIVE. And so basically we have 15 million shares out, and behind every share we have a share of HIVE. So we trade. Now, we used to trade with the movement of gold. Now Grow seems to move with cryptocurrencies also.
Okay, just a couple more questions before we let you go, Frank. Is there any chance in the future that you might consider mining Litecoin or any of these other cryptocurrencies that have, I think, a bright future?
You know what? It's a great question, and yes, yes, and yes. If the idea was to first of all get into Iceland, double our capacity in the month of December, and then look to go into Sweden, where we'll then double our capacity again, and we will be mining other coins. And so we will definitely be in that space. And I think what really looks attractive to, as you're a coin speculator on Coinbase, is the Ethereum Classic.
Okay. All right. Very good. So we've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ethereum Classic, which HIVE Blockchain.
Litecoin.
Yes.
We'll be mining these other coins.
Okay. Excellent. So, guys, this is a play on getting unadulterated, brand new coins, freshly mined. Last question, Frank. I did see your latest email newsletter blast, which was titled "Gold Looks Like a Bargain Just in Time for Christmas." I couldn't agree more. Like I said, on the 5th, they threw $1.5 billion in notional gold at the market to drive the price down to 4-month lows because they're just wonderfully reliable criminals, and they've done this to gold and silver for ages. I would love to see it come to an end at some point. What do you see the future being for gold? And I guess the most important question is, because there is a bit of a fevered pitch in this crypto space, what would you recommend people consider as asset allocation? A lot of my listeners are going to be new to the cryptos in terms of starting to dip the foot in the pool, even though I told folks to get into this a year and a half ago and start dipping a foot in the pool. What would you tell people about asset allocation as it pertains to cryptos and gold and silver, etc.?
I've always advocated 10% in gold and to rebalance once a year. The years it has these big moves, then you buy stocks, and then they have the reverse because there's an incredible mean reversion. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, I think you ought to be taking 1% of your liquidity and putting it into the cryptocurrencies and just get your foothold into them, and you'll see how easy it is to trade them. And here's what's really great news is that Fidelity has all their employees using on a wallet, and they can buy in their cafeteria food with their Bitcoin. So they're the most advanced because they're the most advanced in blockchain technology for stock trading. They have $2.5 trillion in assets. They have the second largest discount broker in the world, and all their employees are keen on using Bitcoin. So you can open an account at Coinbase and you can turn around and show up in your brokerage account at Fidelity. And you can also do this with the USA Insurance, because USA Insurance had made a big investment in Coinbase when it had a valuation of $75 million only a couple of years ago, and now it's $1.7 billion. Big win for USAA, great leadership and foresight to see that investment. But just think of it. You're going to have the biggest military insurance company in the world, and all their insurance and investment models, they're huge, will be able to own Bitcoin and show up in their income in their statements, just like they would show their ETFs, their GLD if they own that, or stocks, etc. It's a holistic approach, inclusive, not exclusive. This is very powerful.
All right. Well, it's a very powerful space, and it's going to be an interesting story for not just the next few months or the next few years, but I think for decades to come. And it's a freight train that either people can, I think, step on and be a part of, or watch it pass you by. It's a very interesting story, guys. Our guest has been Frank Holmes, the CEO and CIO of U.S. Global Investors. The stock ticker over there is GROW. Is that right? GROW, Frank?
Correct.
Yeah, and he's the chairman of HIVE Blockchain, which I own, and the ticker there is PRELF. Frank, thanks so much for your time.
Lovely being with you, and happy investing. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho. Now, friends, for those of you who are still with us, here's a sneak peek at my cryptocurrency, quote-unquote, portfolio. These are the altcoins that I own. Now, of course, if you head over to Coinbase, you can purchase some Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin, but that's all they offer. If you want to dig a little deeper and take some of the advice Clif High has shared, you may end up with some of these, like EOS, Civic, OMC Go, ticker for which is OMG. And by the way, EOS and OMG have been named specifically by Clif as being two cryptocurrencies that data predicts will go far, far higher in the future. Additionally, I have some 10X, the symbol for which is Pay, P-A-Y, some Pillar, some Populous, some PayPi, some Salt, a small amount of Veritasium, a small holding of Status, and a complete and total gamble on Funfair. So those are some of the altcoins I'm dabbling in, just to have a toe in the water in case some of these explode far, far higher as predicted by some of the WebBot data. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know how much we appreciate it, and may God bless you and yours during the holiday season coming up. Merry Christmas early to each and every one of you. Thanks so much for listening. And for real news, visit us at sgtreport.com. Bye-bye.
It just shows, that a lot of people are unhappy with the current monetary system, which is dominated by governments and central banks. And that's why, also this the cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, is rising.